In this Wolong Fallen Dynasty video, I want to talk about everything we've learned about the game so far. We had an opportunity at Gamescom to sit down with producers Masaki Yamagiwa and Fumihiko Yasuda and ask them a lot of questions about this game and really get into the nitty-gritty about how this game is different than Nioh and what makes it its own game. There are a lot of people out there that are wondering if this game is just Nioh but Chinese, essentially, or with Chinese folklore. There are a lot of differences in this game, and there are a lot of similarities to Nioh, so I want to go through those in this video. And with TGS just a couple days away, you're probably going to see some more gameplay footage of this, because it's my understanding that it's going to be playable at TGS. So expect to see some gameplay in the next couple days as well, and it should showcase a lot of the things that I'm going to tell you in this video. So first, let's talk about the main difference between this game and Nioh, and that's that Nioh had a huge focus on samurai core combat, meaning using samurai-style weapons and stances, the way a samurai would fight in combat, whereas Wolong Fallen Dynasty has a huge focus on Chinese martial arts and Chinese martial art weapons. So that's probably the main difference that you're going to notice right away. You're going to have lots of punches and kicks in your combos and things like that, whereas this is not something you would see in a samurai-style combat. Additionally, another main difference to this style of combat is that there is no stamina gauge in Wolong Fallen Dynasty, meaning you're going to be able to attack and dodge much the way you could in Sekiro without having to worry about managing the stamina gauge, which was a huge part of Nioh. And also the fact that you can jump attack means that there's going to be more verticality in terms of the combat and also the gameplay. So I think this gameplay will lean a lot closer to the Sekiro style of, a type game than it will a Nioh type game, but it's going to retain some of those core Nioh elements in terms of gameplay mechanics, like the way you get weapons and skills and things like this. So I think you're going to see sort of a game that's kind of a mesh of Sekiro and Nioh, which honestly just sounds like a dream come true. To sort of reiterate that as well, this game will have another mission system similar to the way that worked in Nioh. You'll have an overland map where you can do things, and then you go on to the mission that you select, depending on what missions are available, and you'll follow the story by completing mission after mission, much the way you would in Nioh. Something that was impressed upon us as well is that as you defeat big enemies in these missions, you'll gain morale. My understanding of morale is that it's kind of like the leveling system. It's what makes your character stronger. It's not necessarily called level, but you have a morale that increases as you do certain things throughout the game. It makes you stronger, and some enemies have more morale than you, and you won't be able to fight them effectively if they're too high a level. And also, the missions that open up and the paths of each mission change depending on what your morale is at, so you might have a little bit of a different experience depending on what point in the game you do a mission. When we asked these gentlemen about the skill system, they said that the skill system would be similar to Nioh, but it would take inspiration from the 5 elements in Chinese culture, and these are water, fire, wood, metal, and earth. And the magic in the game is going to be based on these elements. The spells that we saw in this game looked absolutely fantastic. Some of the best magic-looking spells I've seen, so that's really, really cool. And they did say there would be a lot of freedom and build variety with the skill system, so for those of you that enjoyed making builds in Nioh, I think that's still very much going to be the case of Wolong, so that's good news there. When it comes to the loot system and equipment, it's going to be somewhat similar to Nioh in that there's going to be lots of different loots for you to get, but they're going to be traditional Chinese weapons in the game, and it's going to focus on that instead of Japanese weapons and samurai-type weapons, so you can look forward to that. And there's also going to be very famous weapons in the game from Chinese history, so you can expect to see those in the game. If you didn't know that the story of this game takes place during the Three Kingdoms area of Chinese history, which is a very famous period, so I would expect to see weapons of those sort of heroes in this game, which I think is great. When we asked them about how they were going to approach the accuracy of this time period, how they took Nioh and they took real events that happened in Japanese history and sort of made their own interpretation and added obviously supernatural elements with the yokai, they're taking a similar approach to this period of history in Chinese history of the Three Kings era. They're going to be, having it based loosely on real events, but they're also going to add dark fantasy elements, and they're also going to add things from, Chinese folklore and Chinese legends compared to the yokai and Japanese folklore. So you'll kind of get a similar feel to the way that Nioh was done in that sense, but it'll obviously be a completely different game, with a completely different set of history and folklore. Something we were curious about after we found out about Wo Long Fallen Dynasty was how similar this would be to Dynasty Warriors. I think a lot of people were wondering if this game would be a mashup of Nioh and Dynasty Warriors, and I can tell you that's simply not the case. There's not going to be any Dynasty Warriors style battles in this, or big battles with lots of units. That is not a thing in this game. The focus of battles in this game is going to be one-on-one. Thinking about what weapons and skills in order to use in order to beat someone in like a duel type scenario. Huge focus on 1v1 combat. So that's exactly the opposite of Dynasty Warriors. So you're not going to see any big scale battles. So if you're wondering about that, that is not a thing in this game. When it comes to the multiplayer aspects, they will be similar to Nioh in the sense that you will be able to cooperate and PvP in this game. I don't know exactly what modes they have available compared to what Nioh had, but my speculation is that these will be likely to be the same since these have worked for Nioh, and I don't see why they would change it given that they have the same mission style nature that they had in Nioh. So I would expect a multiplayer system that is identical or almost identical to what we see in the Nioh franchise. And then lastly, the thing that I wanted to know was we had demos for both Nioh and Nioh 2, so I wanted to know if there was going to be a demo for this game in the near future. And the answer is that they are looking into it. They would love to do a demo if they could. I don't think they wanted to guarantee a demo based on, production targets and all that. They didn't want to say something and then it not happen. But I think the general context of what I got from them is that they're going to try and do one if they can. So keep an eye out. There's probably going to be a demo for Wo Long in the not too distant future. So if you want to get your hands on the game and check it out before you make a decision whether to buy it or not, I would wait for that before you pre-order. That way you can really decide for yourself if it's different enough from Nioh for you to like, or maybe it's similar enough from Nioh for you to like, and really get a sense of the game before you purchase it. Again, with TGS just a few days away now, you're going to see some more gameplay of this rather soon. I'd be curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. What do you guys think of this game? Is it something that you're interested in? Are you kind of burnt out on the Nioh-style games from Koei Tecmo, or are you eager for more but different? Let us know in the comments below.